And welcome in to another new episode of Pit Stop Pals here on Reality Realm Network. We are back finally, and it's good to
Yes.
be back. We had a
Welcome
lot
back.
going on last week, just couldn't make it work, but we're finally back, Kev.
We are. And welcome in to the next leg of our race around the world.
Yes.
Do you want to lead this week, Bruce, or you want me to?
We can go back and forth, I guess, because we didn't really discuss that part. But episode 4 of Race 25. I'll start out this way. My mom was watching this one with me, so I wasn't like paying attention to quotes as much. So I was just trying
Wow.
to get notes down. But Robbie saying I'm a phenomenal waitress was funny.
I wrote that down.
Because waiters are guys and waitresses are usually women. So Robbie calling himself a phenomenal waitress was funny, just to me for some reason.
Well, I don't like him, so him calling himself a girl, I'm all for it.
It's funny. That's
Yeah.
the only one I wrote down. I'm sure there were others. I just wasn't paying attention as closely for the little quotes here and there.
Yeah, I got another one. So when Jim and Misty were struggling hardcore this week, there was a flashback from 36 hours previous where Jim says, and I quote, "I'd love for us to prove ourselves to be the most dominant team in Amazing Race history."
Well, that's gone.
Yeah. And then they did that. And it really just made me be like, in your face. Take the karma, buddy. Stop being so cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think I'm hoping he turns another corner, because the other quote I kind of got from it was like the last thing that was said in the whole episode was that it's humbling to have challenges that actually fit our skill sets and we just screw them up. So maybe he's going to get knocked down a level or two. Once
Yeah,
again, I'm not trying to talk ill of the dead, but he
yeah.
could use a little bit of being put in his place.
Well, and they've been so dominant and at the top the whole time this season, and they just fell apart this episode. They went from first or second to last, and they lucked out. But
We'll get there.
yeah. So it starts off. We find out we're going to Copenhagen, and that sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because some teams decide to go straight to the airport and try to get a flight, and other teams decide to wait a few hours for the travel agency to open to get
Yeah,
flights.
but you skipped ahead a little bit
Oh,
there.
I missed some in my notes then.
Yeah, you're good. So I just thought it was kind of interesting. You know, they were leaving from that sandbar in the Shetland Islands, and they actually had to camp out in tents the night overnight before they left, which I thought that was kind of cool.
Was it
But
past tense
anyway,
or present tense?
what?
Was
Okay,
it
get
past
out of
tense
here.
or
You can
present?
get out of here. Get out of here.
Okay.
Okay, see you, Bruce. Okay, I guess I'll do the rest of this one on by myself. No, they had to take a 13-hour ferry ride to Aberdeen, Scotland before they took a flight.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and that's a long ferry ride, 13 hours. But yeah, that's when they were going to catch their flight to Copenhagen, Denmark. And like you said, some went straight to the travel agency, some went straight to the airport. But if you notice, besides the bicyclists, I don't know how they lucked out, and the dentists who did their flight plans over the phone, no matter if you were with the travel agency or straight to the airport, everybody was almost all on the same flight anyway.
Yeah, that was kind of funny to me. Your
Yeah.
Kim and Allie did get an earlier flight somehow, but
Yeah.
everyone else was right around that same time.
Yeah. Kim and Allie were supposed to get there around 2, the dentist around 4, and everybody else between 5:15 and 5:30, basically.
Yeah.
Except Tim and TJ, who had a flight delay, and it was 5:35 for them.
Poor Tim and TJ. But
They're fine.
Yeah.
But they got to Copenhagen, and all I got was windmills. There was
Yeah.
windmills all over the place.
Well, they get to Copenhagen and they're immediately apparently they weren't staying there because they're immediately told drive to Sweden,
Yeah.
but drive efficiently.
Yeah.
That part was interesting.
Well, I don't think it's the only time in Amazing Race history they do this, by the way. The efficient driving stuff. But
yeah.
but yeah, they had to drive 20 miles or 8 kilometers across this bridge, in with only using 0.1 or less gallons of gas in this hybrid vehicle.
Yeah, and
Proved to be difficult as only 2 teams were able to do it
well, and
that I have written down.
the first team that did, who was it? Kim and Allie did it on their first try,
Oh,
and
you only get one try, buddy.
they were like way under it too. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, they were 0.01.
That was insane to me. No, because there there was like you said, only one other group got it on their first try. A lot of groups got it on their second try. Went No, they didn't try this one more than once. They had to go answer questions or something like that.
Yes, that's what I was trying to tell you, but you don't listen.
Well, I do sometimes, but like a lot of even some of the groups that didn't get it were close. One of them was way off. I don't remember who that was, but like Kim
Yeah,
and Ellie were so far under it. That was insane to me.
yeah. The bicyclists and then Team Nashville, Team Survivor, whatever you want to call them, they got under, but I'm not sure that anybody else did.
I don't remember because like we mentioned this before we started recording, but Kevin just watched this episode before we started recording, and I watched it like over a week ago. So we're at different ends of the memory spectrum here, but I've got notes, so we're good. So after the efficient driving thing, if they fail, they have to go answer these questions somewhere nearby in Sweden.
Yeah, it wasn't very far. It was like a few 100 feet away was where those people were.
Yeah.
But the questions were to list the capitals of the Scandinavian countries: Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. And most people didn't know them. They had to go ask people. But Tim
Stockholm.
and TJ knew.
I know Stockholm is Sweden.
And Oslo is Norway, and Copenhagen's Denmark. But Tim and TJ knew that.
Yeah. They're
Probably
smart.
because they were flight attendants at one point.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And so after this, we arrive at our detour, and the choices both seem like
Back to Copenhagen.
Back to Copenhagen. Yeah, we did go back to. We did this whole deal about traveling to Sweden just to immediately leave Sweden and go back to Copenhagen for some reason.
They wanted to cross the bridge. I think that was the whole reason.
Okay, that makes sense. We go back to Copenhagen, and our detour options this time both seem awful, honestly. Like normally one seems better than the other. I'd be terrible at either of these. So you have parking space, which is set up this little streetscape, and you have a picture of how it's supposed to look.
Called a parklet.
And 30 minutes or less, matching this picture detail for detail. Nothing can be different. Or you have wedding cake, which is to build and decorate and stack this really tall cake and then transport it somewhere else, which was harder than it, which already sounds like it's going to be hard, but a lot of teams struggled with that one too, which I feel like if I was doing that one, the cake would fall over, but I'm also not the greatest at it being observant sometimes. So even if I was doing the other one, I would struggle with that one too, because there was a lot of little tiny, a flower painted on a pot cost a team a lot of time. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd suck at either.
Which one do you think we would do, Bruce?
I don't know. I'd probably let you decide. I'm gonna be terrible at either of these, to be honest.
Well, I'm going with parking space because I can only imagine either one of us trying to pedal the other one with
Well,
the cake and staying
and that
steady.
that
And
bike looked weird too. It looked
and
like
to
it
be
was hard to
fair,
go.
I don't think that we could decorate the cake nice enough to even get it on the bike in the first place. I don't trust that.
I'm an artiste.
No, no.
Okay. Well, there's my
There's your
there's the
there's your
thumbnail.
still
Yeah,
for the
if I can find it.
thumbnail. Okay.
But yeah,
You'll
these
find it.
both look awful.
Yeah. And let's see. It actually split 4-4. Parking space was the dentist, food scientist, college sweethearts, and flight attendants. And then the wedding cake was bicyclists, wrestlers, Nashville, and Soul Surfer. That would not necessarily stay the same throughout.
Yeah,
Um,
there was a lot of switching on this one.
as Keith and Whitney and the Soul Surfers both went from wedding cake to parking space, and then the dentists went from parking space to wedding cake.
And Jim and Misty did both and took forever at both of them.
The dentists
Oh, yeah.
went from parking space to wedding cake. Ding dong.
I forgot they were dentists, to be honest. I'm so used to calling them by their names. I'm dumb.
You said it, not me.
You agreed.
I said
On the
nothing.
bright side, I'm sitting here saying how these both look like I'd be awful at them. Kim and Ellie finished the wedding cake one on their first try.
Well, to be fair, they are bicyclists.
Their cake still fell apart as soon as the top fell off when they started riding the bike, and they still finished the thing.
But they're also genius because it kind of fell off, but it didn't fall apart. And so they just kept it separate until the end. Plus, they brought icing with them to do icing triage before they delivered the cake,
which
I didn't see any. It was genius. I didn't see anybody else do that.
I want to eat these cakes.
Of course you do.
They look yummy.
Anything looks yummy to you.
Don't eat those.
Anything looks yummy to you, Bruce.
No, not vegetables.
That's true. Vegetables do not look yummy.
Potatoes are vegetables. Those are good.
Is a potato technically a vegetable?
It grows from the ground. It's a vegetable.
I don't think that's how that works.
It's not a healthy vegetable. It's very starchy, but it counts as a vegetable technically. It's a root like a carrot is.
Okay.
They're so versatile. Anyway, we're off
track. We're all God's potatoes. That was a quote from my vacation a couple years ago.
I'm gonna find a way to work that into a sermon someday.
We're all God's potatoes. Preach it at Blandonsville.
But yeah, and what was it called? Parking space. You'd think it would be easy. You've got all the pieces. You've got a picture that tells you where to put them. But teams struggled with, and Jim and Misty were really close a bunch of times. And we see that the difference is their flower pot, this plant pot they set out doesn't have a flower painted on it like it's supposed to.
Well, it does have a flower, but
they got wrong, and they keep getting their checks wrong, and they keep changing everything else. And I think they just got in their own head after a certain point.
It was one side of the pot had 7 petals, the other side had 8.
Oh yeah, it's even more ridiculous than I thought it was.
They needed the 8 and they had the 7.
You see, I wouldn't think or be observant enough to count the flower petals on there. So I don't necessarily blame them, but I think they just struggled for so long they got in their own heads after a certain point, and it got even worse. But
we see that trend continue on later on.
Yeah, they struggled for the first time this episode, but struggled mightily.
Pretty bad, yeah. So after Kim and Allie got done, with the cake, we were introduced to the roadblock, which was called Take a Number, where they had to go to Ida Davidson restaurant and memorize 4 sandwich orders, which proved to be more challenging than it might sound.
Oh, this looks awful also.
Yeah, you probably would have sent me in.
Yeah, well, even before they started, like, I have written in my notes what the challenge is, like, when Mr. Phil explains it before they get there.
Mr.
And,
Phil.
and then I wrote down, this looks so hard.
I
And
got a pretty good memory, though. I think we could have
yeah,
got it taken care of. But Kim
and
and Allie, they kind of ate that one up, too. I mean, it took her a little bit to get it going, but she was done with that before anybody else finished the detour.
yeah. So they killed it. But there was someone, I forget who it was, that like was getting the orders right, but wasn't saying the sandwich numbers when reciting them.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
That would be that I would feel so dumb after learning that that's why I was getting it wrong so many times. But yeah, this was a wild challenge.
But yeah, like we said though, Kim and Allie got it done before anybody else even got done with their detour. So back to the detour for a second. We had the food scientists and the survivors both pass the dentist, and that's when they decided to switch detours on us.
Yeah.
And they got it done pretty much in one try once they did that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, the candy scientists are still kind of upper middle of the pack. I still have this gut feeling that they're going to end up deeper in the season, but we just have barely seen any of them so far.
Mm.
They're in that middle range all season though, but I feel like they're going to just keep surviving till it's the last couple episodes.
Right. But they did pretty good with this challenge, with the waitressing.
Yeah.
To answer your question, it was Misty that was she had gone through about 4 different times, listing off all of the correct sandwiches before she went back and read her clue and realized that she was supposed to be saying the sandwich numbers, which made them be in last place, leaving the restaurant challenge.
Yeah. So, and again, at that point, they were kind of in their heads and freaking out. So, which they had to save. I don't know why they were so in their heads, but I guess they were just trying not to have to use it.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to that in a second.
We'll get to that. So the pit stop was at the VM houses in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Yes.
What'd you think of the pit stop?
It was really cool looking. And I actually wrote down VM houses this time.
Wow. That's a shock.
Yeah, I normally forget to write. Well, the one was at Christchurch College.
No, you didn't write that down either.
I don't think that was the pit stop. They went.
It wasn't. It wasn't. That was where they went and took the hats off or whatever. And speaking of, there we go. I got my hat.
Little treat for the YouTube audience there that just had me throw my hat at them. But yeah, the VM houses were cool. I liked it. These pit stops have all been really fun so far.
Glad that you approve of a pit stop from 10 years ago.
Stamp of approval.
Okay. So Kim and Allie, they finished in first place here, each winning a new Ford hybrid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which they love because they're all about that economic efficient or economy, not economic, whatever efficiency. They like the efficiency. They like to help the environment. Environment. That's what I was looking for, not economy. The environmental efficiency. They love that stuff. Yeah. I would not be so excited for a hybrid car, but
I'd
teach
just be
their own.
excited to get a car. Mine is 14 years old at this point.
Wow, you can do math. Mine's 18.
Your car's cool. It has giant, like, the front seat for the passenger side is really wide.
All my seats are big, yeah.
But yeah, so they both win cars. That's super cool.
Yes, sir. And what?
No, I lost my train of thought.
Coming in after them was the wrestlers,
Yeah.
followed by Keith and Whitney.
The wrestlers moving up the pack, by the way, all the way up to second.
Well, yeah, that's because Robbie's a phenomenal waitress.
He is.
Oh, here I have that we found out that TJ was the server, and so he went in there and absolutely dominated that roadblock,
Yeah.
which really helped them because they were in 7th place the whole race this week, pretty much. Amy and Maya finished in 4th, followed by Tim and TJ, who, like I said, made up a lot of ground. And it's at this point we see Shelly and Niecy have some pretty bad communication
Again.
and navigation issues, both of them, as
Yep.
they literally drove past the pit stop, and Shelly saw it and wouldn't tell her daughter because she just shut down on her.
Yeah, she was trying to prove some sort of dumb point in like the worst, most petty way possible. I was not happy with Shelly there. Shelly's
Yeah, Shelly's the mom.
Yeah, if I was Nisi, I would have been ticked off at my mom there. Not that my mom would have done something that stupid, but yeah, I'd have been ticked.
I literally wrote down, I am getting so tired of Shelly and Niecy.
Uh-huh.
They can go.
They're kind of exhausting.
Mm-hmm. But they finished in 6th place, and as they get to the pit stop, Niecy has a breakdown. And Phil's kind of getting after him.
Yeah, Mr. Phil even said, like, no, come back, be an adult, let's talk about this. Like, I don't think I've seen feisty Mr. Phil before.
Probably not.
I've seen feisty Jeff a few times on Survivor, and that always makes me happy, but I've not seen feisty Phil Kogan before. That was a change of pace. Couldn't think of the words. I'm good with that.
Yeah, it was. It was nice, for sure. 7th place was Adam and Bethany. Huge drop for them.
Yeah.
And then finishing in last was Jim and Misty, the dentists. Literally stepped on the mat, and Jim handed Phil his save.
Yeah.
It was at this point where Phil gave the save back to him and announced that this was a non-elimination leg. They got so freaking lucky.
They really did. I mean, they had the save anyway, which is kind of overpowered, I guess, but they get to keep it even though, yeah. This is right up there with on whatever season in the 30s that Kaylin and Haley were on, where they finished last twice in a row and they were both non-elimination legs. Like, this is up there with that level of luck.
Mm. That's for sure. So you got any power rankings, Bruce?
I do. I was working on them right now. I thought I did them when I watched the episode, but apparently I didn't.
Wow, how dare you?
Am I going bottom to top or top to bottom?
Let's go bottom to top.
So at the bottom, because they literally can't even get along to the point of one of them is actively trying to sabotage their team just to be right about something. Shelly and Niecy are last.
Mm.
not only do I think they go next, I kind of hope they go next at this point. It's something with them every week. They're drama at this point.
Oh, I hear you. I also have the flight attendants in eighth, and I do want them to go home next. And that's saying a lot because I don't like the wrestlers at all, and I'd rather them stay than the flight attendants.
And you don't like the dentist either.
That's right, but I like them more than I like the wrestlers.
Yeah, this episode was hard to power rank for because a few of the two of the teams I've had near the top of my rankings the whole time with
Yeah,
Jim Misty and Adam and Bethany were both near the bottom. And these power rankings are overall, so I don't feel like I can just drop them to the complete bottom, but figuring out what to do with these rankings was hard.
it was. Yeah,
And
I
so
agree.
they finished second this leg, but just coming in at 7, I still have Brooke and Robbie. They were better this episode for sure, but all the other the first 3 episodes, there's always been that one challenge that they just struggle and take forever on. And that's gonna catch up to them after a certain point.
Right. I have the food scientists here. No hate.
Yeah.
They could definitely go far, but like you said, this is overall, and they've been kind of middle of the pack, and I don't feel like I can justify putting them above some of these other teams, even if they did struggle this week.
Yeah. Okay, coming in at 6. And this kind of 4, 5, 6 range is all super close for me. But I have Keith and Whitney here. They've been really good. These rankings are hard. I have to put someone here. And so I like them. They've been getting better each episode, though. So I assume, each time we podcast, they'll climb a little bit further up this rankings of mine. But
So my sixth, you might not be very happy with.
okay.
I have the Soul Surfers here, and
No, I have them next at 5. This is pretty much they started off really strong, but episodes 3 and 4 they were second to last this week. So
yeah, I mean, I couldn't put them above some of these other teams.
yeah.
And so you had them in fifth. I had the wrestlers in fifth.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot because I don't like them.
They were a lot better this episode. They just didn't impress me very much the first 3 episodes. So I'm still
I
trying to
agree with
figure out
that.
how I feel about them.
I agree with that, but you know what? What got them into fifth was that phenomenal waitressing.
Yeah. My number 4 is the candy scientist, Amy and Maya. We're not seeing very much of them in the edit, which we haven't seen, but that also means we haven't seen them just completely struggle and be terrible at anything yet.
Right.
So they're middle of the pack now. What I think they're going to do, I could see them sneaking their way into the finale by just not being last each episode and just kind of.
Yeah.
Because usually every episode, there's at least one team that just falls apart and takes forever on a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And that team will go home each week, and the candy scientists will kind of keep going each week, is what I'm thinking.
My number 4 is Jim and Misty. I think that they are so good, but they struggled so hard this week. And I think they will bounce back. But right now, I can't put them in my finale after finishing 8th place.
Yeah. I think the thing is, and they're really good, and they'll bounce back. Tim and TJ gained as much ground as they did. Jim and Misty can absolutely do that. But they're really good, and they have the save.
Mm-hmm.
So, which we'll talk about the save in a second, because I have a thought about this.
Okay.
My
So
number
he got
3 is Tim and TJ.
Mm-hmm.
They struggled. They've taken forever on some challenges. They've come back. They're pretty consistent with their finishes, though. They're upper middle of the pack, lower top. Like they've never really been in that big of a danger of going home, I don't feel like.
Well, I also have Tim and TJ in third. They finished in fifth this week. They were in seventh at one point. I just think that they have some random skill sets that really cater to at least a challenge about every week, and so I like their chances of doing decent here.
Yeah. My number 2 is Jim and Misty, and I know they just came in last in this last leg. They're an incredible team. They're gonna come back anyway. They're gonna make up time somehow, and they've got the save in their back pocket. So, I still think they're going to the finale. They struggled this past week, but they'll bounce back.
My number 2 was Keith and Whitney. You're showing them a lot of hate there in sixth place, sir. Because,
Yeah,
like you said, they've been climbing every week. They finished in third place this
yeah,
week, and I think they did the same thing last week.
yeah.
Or very close to. What?
I said when they're good again in this next episode, they'll take a huge jump. I think I was just kind of scrambling.
And like in early on, we were worried about negativity and communication issues,
Yeah,
but
that's
I
better.
didn't see a single thing this week.
Yeah, and also it's hard to have that worry about them when Shelly and Nisi have happened the past few episodes.
That's for
So,
sure.
and
And so I
then
think that means we have the same number 1.
yeah, your favorite team, I think, right?
It is. They are my favorite team.
The bicyclist Kim and Ellie killed this episode, breezed through everything, and were really strong in the last episode too. So
That's for sure. I mean, I can't say enough about them. They dominated. Like I said, they were finishing the roadblock while everybody else was still doing the detour. It was incredible.
yeah. So what are your thoughts on the save itself as an advantage? Because I feel like it's almost a little bit overpowered. Just especially if it's not going to be if it's not activated on the non-elimination leg, which I get those are pre-planned, but it's just I don't know. I don't think I'm a big fan of this advantage.
So the only thing that I would say is I think that to make the save less overpowering and a better fit, I think it should have an expiration date.
Yeah, and I get that the non-elim is like pre-planned by production. But if the team that has the save finishes last, I feel like having it not activated there and still letting them keep that is like I don't know. I wouldn't have been upset if Phil would have accepted that from them instead of handing it back.
Right.
Which it's kind of murky there. It was predetermined to be non-elim, so like I don't know how like if the save wouldn't have even been eligible, but I don't know. I don't love the advantage because and they earned it, they won it, but it kind of allows you to race a lot more freely
Yeah.
and carelessly and not have the stress that all the other teams have. And they won that, they earned that, but it's a lot.
I think that they should do it to where like you got to use your save by final 6.
Yeah,
Or
like
something.
immunity idols, you have to use them by 5.
And I don't, but I don't want them to push it all the way to 5 for this. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a really fun episode. Both of the detours were awful, but entertaining to watch.
I want to say something.
Yeah.
Even though this Amazing Race podcast, we got to peep my other new shirt. Jelinski, I'm wearing it right now.
Oh, nice. Several.
This is my 777 on the front, and then on the back, it's got his face, and it says 7 means several, and
That's
it's got
incredible.
Vegas. It's a rocking shirt, man.
That's so funny, and he sells slot machines, and it's got like the
777 like a slot machine. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
this was really fun. It's good to be back.
Yes, sir. Glad I could be here this week.
And
What?
you don't you usually start the sign off?
Yes, I will.
Go.
All righty. Until next time, travel safe
Good luck.
and go.
Go.
Messed it up again.